Hi, kangaroos. I wanted to give you a little bit of my Alaska flashcards that I actually got when I was in Alaska and when I took that trip. So you'll have to check out some of the pictures I sent you because those are pretty cool too. But I was really excited to find these resources. At the time, I was in giraffes, so I had little guys. But I still think it's really fun to see how, in different parts of the world, you might choose different themes for your ABCs. So one of the cool ones we have here is A is obviously for Alaska. So when we do our song when we're working on songs, we say A is for Alaska, Alaska. And I always love that one. That's the whole shape of the state, as you can see. And there's the compass Miss Rosie always likes to point out. Got B is for blueberries, because they've got a lot of blueberries in that area that grow. And if you remember blueberries for Sal, there were the bears that got to eat the blueberries. That's pretty common in Alaska. Got C is for caribou. And now I'm sure you recognize that caribou look a lot like reindeer, like Santa's reindeer. Caribou is the term for the wild version, and reindeer is the term for the domesticated kind. So Santa has ones that live on a farm, technically, when they live at the North Pole. So reindeer, caribou, caribou. Okay, D is for doll sheep. And doll sheep are really cool. They have big horns. My mom actually just saw a couple of these, not in Alaska, but in Canada. They're rock hopping goat-like sheep. They're pretty cool. Got E is for eagle. We saw a bunch of these in Alaska. They just kind of fly around and hang out in tall trees. And you can always spot them because they have the big white heads and the big tails, the white tails. Got F is for fireweed. So fireweed must be a very common plant. Miss Kelsey can't say we saw any. We went during the winter, so there was no plants. Just lots of snow. It was very cold. You've got G is for gold. There was a time in Alaska when there was a gold rush and people wanted to come up to Alaska to see if they could mine for gold and strike it rich quick. You could make a lot of money if you could find gold in the rocks. So, or even in the water, you might search for it with a pan and try to get some gold out of the bottom of the water. So I think that is cool. Got H is for halibut. Now, if you look closely, the halibut there has both of its eyes on top. They're a flat fish that lives in the area, in the waters, and they are, Miss Kelsey doesn't like them very much, but they're pretty good staple fish that you could eat. You've got I is for iceberg. So that's that long I sound, I, as opposed to I. But regardless, we've got the iceberg. And as you can see, there's usually, when it comes to icebergs, most of it's on the bottom, underneath the water, and you only see a little bit at the top. Bad news for the Titanic. Ask your family. Meanwhile, you've got J is for jade. And I don't know if you can see that color very well, but it's a dark green, and it's a beautiful green rock that you could also mine in Alaska. Got K is for king crab. King crab. Got both. And king crabs are huge. If you go out and you eat at a fancy restaurant, the king crab almost never has a price next to it because it depends entirely on whether they caught enough that day or got some in from Alaska. They're pretty expensive. They're really big. Got L is for lynx. Lynx are very cute. You can tell the difference between lynx and bobcats usually because the lynx will have these little tufts. You can't see it too well here, but there's little tufts at the top of their ears. That's what lynx have. Say M is for moose. Moose are pretty cool. In Alaska, they actually can't put salt on the roads in the winter because the moose will eat it. And it's not even so bad that they'll eat it. It's more like they will cause car accidents because they're just hanging out in the road eating the salt. Moose are everywhere. They walk into towns a lot. They walk into ski resorts in Alaska. They just kind of hang out, but they can be kind of scary. So you want to stay away from them if you do see one out in the wild. Give it its space. We got N is for narwhal. Narwhal. This was my first teacher's absolute favorite kind of animal. they are very cool. I'm losing you guys, sorry. My screensaver came back up. Meanwhile, though, narwhal are whales that have unicorn horns, as you can see, and it's not actually a horn. What it is its tooth. One of its teeth that grows right out of its head, and they use it to break into the ice so that they can be under the water and still get up for air. They can break through the ice. Got O is for orca. Orca. So that's the O sound as opposed to the ah sound. But what we love about orcas is they have really complex family groups. They live with their babies, and they live with their siblings, and they live with some friends, and they are very smart. They can do all kinds of cool things. One of them, you can see them when they try to teach their babies how to hunt. They'll keep putting the same seal back up on the ice and then splash the water to knock it off, and then try to get it back on there again to keep trying so they can keep learning. They're very smart whales. But they're obviously carnivores. They eat other, seals and fish and all kinds of things, but they're still pretty awesome. We've got P is for obviously the polar bear. The polar bears are very cool. They live up in the Arctic, and they are white to blend in with the snow. Okay, Miss Kelsey has always had trouble saying this. I'm going to go with Kivyut. To me, that is a musk ox, and I want to imagine that this is probably an Inuit word for musk ox, which are pretty cool, and I'll show you a real picture of those later. R is for raven. The ravens are definitely everywhere in Alaska too. They're bigger than crows, and they can kind of talk the way parrots can. Sometimes they can learn other calls. They're pretty fancy birds, but they're kind of around. They like to eat the things that people leave behind and animals leave behind. Got S is for salmon. Salmon is big. Salmon is a huge part of Alaska. You get all the bears up there that need to eat the salmon, because salmon go back up the rivers to the same spot where they were born. And that's how they, lay their eggs to make more salmon. They're pretty cool. They're pretty big fish. And I'm sure you've had salmon before. If you haven't, you should ask your parents, because it's delicious. Got T is for tufted puffin. And so there's a couple kinds of puffins, apparently. This one's the tufted puffin. He's got a little extra stuff going on with his feathers there. He's pretty cool. Love puffins. U is for ulu. Ulu is a special kind of knife that the Inuit natives used for carving and, getting food and all kinds of other things with the animals they hunted. You can find these, you can buy these in Alaska if you go up there. Some of them are really beautiful. Got these for volcano. There are volcanoes in Alaska, guys. I'm trying to remember the name of one of them, and right now I cannot. I will get back to you. But I know that, there are volcanoes peppered all over the area there. They're on one of those puzzle pieces we talked about. They're on the edges of the puzzle piece of the crust that makes the entire globe. So you will get some of those volcanoes in the area. You got W is for walrus. Walrus. Walruses are big seals with the long tusks. You guys have seen those before. They're pretty cool. And this one they fudged. They tried really hard. They came up with X is for extra tough boots. Because when you are in Alaska, you absolutely need to make sure that your boots are some of the best you're going to have. Because when your feet are cold, there's not much else you can do or think about. So, extra tough boots. Y is for yellow-eyed rockfish, which is another staple fish that you'll find in Alaska. I have not had this kind, but I'm sure they're delicious. And you also have Z is for Zodiac craft, which would be very important because there's chains of islands off the coast of Alaska. And if you gotta hop around from island to island or get some simple things done in the ocean, and you just need to go a little bit, not too far, but a little bit, you might use a Zodiac. So that's all I got for you right now, guys. I hope you enjoyed that. I hope you're enjoying learning about Alaska.